Hey, it's Ben here from the Strength Factory, and today I'm going to tell you how you can use your gravel bike to improve your mountain bike fitness. Like it or not, gravel bikes or adventure bikes, they're a thing. They're everywhere, okay? And you know what? I don't ever want to have a road bike again because I'm fully on board, okay? It just makes way more sense with the roads where I live, and it just lets me do a load more stuff. And for me, a gravel bike is exactly what I need to help improve my mountain bike fitness, both in general and as I work up towards doing a bit of racing this summer. So I'm just going to take you through a few things now, how I think you can use it and why it's a really valuable tool. The first reason then is that on a day like today, it's dry on the road, it's not raining, it's really been quite a nice day actually, but for the last 3 days it has poured with rain. And if I've got a little bit of time to go riding, if I do a mountain bike ride, whether it's half an hour or 3 hours, I get just as muddy and have just as much admin to do after the ride. Jet washing the bike, jet washing my shoes, everything goes in the washing machine. Whereas if I'm short on time, the gravel bike is ideal for getting out and getting some miles in the legs on a day like today. So when you're short on time, the mountain bike just doesn't always make sense because the amount of work compared to the amount of return is really out of whack. Whereas on the gravel bike, you can get yourself out on the road or on some fire roads, minimal admin, maximum fitness. The second reason why your gravel bike is a great training tool, the roads are sketchy. Let's say you want to do an interval training session or a sprint training session, okay? And again, you don't want to do it indoors on a turbo trainer or you don't have one, and it's stinking outside, you don't have time, you've only got an hour, maybe your lunch break, maybe after work before you put the kids to bed. What are you going to do? You can jump on something like this and you can do it not just on the road, but you can come off of the actual roads and away from traffic. You can do that work on a fire road, or I'm here just on like a farm track basically, where there is no traffic, okay? It's a really safe environment to do it. Doing training on the roads is fine, but you've got traffic, you've got the noise, the pollution, and that constant risk of getting knocked off, especially if you're really going hard trying to do sprints and stuff like that. So for me, if I'm going to go out and do some hard intervals and sprints and stuff like that, not on the mountain bike, then I'm going to try and get away from the roads using the gravel bike to really make the maximum use of how versatile these tools are. Obviously, it's always optional, but if you're on the road bike, you're probably wearing Lycra. There's just no need, is there? On a gravel bike, you can get away being a bit jazzy and reminding people that you're not a roadie and that you are, in fact, a mountain biker by wearing baggy stuff. This next one might be a little more controversial, but basically, there's something about getting on a light, responsive bike compared to my heavy built, big travel enduro bike that makes you want to work a bit harder. It makes you want to stand up and go. It makes you want to put a few watts into the pedals. It makes you want to try and bend those cranks, okay? This is an entry-level bike. It's just over £1,000, okay? And yeah, you can get lighter, fancier ones. You can spend as much money as you like. But for instance here, just over £1,000, when I compare it to my enduro bike, I stand up on it and this thing absolutely flies. And for me, if I'm doing interval training or sprints, like I said, then it's a really good feeling and I find it really motivating, and it's almost easier to work hard on it because it's got that zip, it's got that extra spring, that lightness, that stiffness, no suspension. That means that all your effort goes straight into propelling you forwards and you get that sensation of speed. So I really enjoy doing some of my training on the gravel bike. Just remember though, one of the general principles of training is that as we approach the race or the event, your training should become more specific and more like the event, i.e. as I get closer to the races, the gravel bike is going to get put away and I'm going to do those sprints on my mountain bike or my enduro bike. Guess what? Your gravel bike is an ideal tool for racking up those base miles to develop your aerobic fitness. Who would have thought I'd talk about that in one of my videos? Or maybe I'll talk about it in all of them. But if you know me, you know I place a lot of value on building that aerobic base fitness. Whether you've got 1 hour or 3, getting those base miles in the legs, in the lungs to make those adaptations is so valuable. And with a gravel bike, yeah, you could do it on a road bike, you could do it on a mountain bike, but again, you've got about a bit of freedom to go on and off road compared to the road bike. And a lot of times in the winter on the mountain bike, especially if you live somewhere hilly, the hills are going to be just too big, too steep and too muddy to stay aerobic, and the heart rate is going to spike. Whereas on the gravel bike, if you're riding fire roads maybe and road, then it's a lot easier to spend more time in that aerobic zone 2. Okay, and that is where the magic happens. That's where we accumulate time and volume, and that is then going to build the base and the foundation to allow your fitness to really peak in the summer for racing. One of the things that I love about my gravel bike and that I use it for is that it's actually versatile. Okay, I can go out and ride it for training. Next week I'm going to have a pannier on the back of there, and I'm going to use it for some commuting. Okay, it'll take me 2 minutes to unbolt that if I want to go out on a training ride to get some miles in or something like that. It can be commuting, it can be bike packing, it can be training, it could be whatever you want it to be. Compared to a lot of road bikes where you can't take any luggage or anything like that, you can just do whatever you want. And to me, that is a good thing, because whilst, yeah, having lots of bikes is kind of nice, actually, we don't need lots of bikes. And if one bike can do lots of things, then that is good news. There you go, there's some reasons why I think a gravel bike is an amazing training tool for the mountain bike rider or racer. At the end of the day, it's not rocket science. Riding your bike gets you fitter for riding your bike, but I always would take the gravel bike over the road bike, and for me it's just the perfect tool to go with like a big heavy enduro bike, because they're so different, they're opposite ends of the spectrum. If you found this video useful, then look, do me a favour, hit that thumbs up, give me a like. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because I'll be honest, only about half the people who watch are subscribed. Doing my head in, you need to get subscribed, okay? And if this is useful, send it to a mate who needs to get themselves a gravel bike or who needs to up their training game. Right, I'll be back soon with more factory knowledge. Until then, I'm gonna go bag some hills.